Let me take you with me as I get a little bit of work done to prep these areas for the winter.
Now the next thing I want to do to put this garden to bed is to pick a lot of my dried out pole beans.
Guten gardening, everybody. Well, today's work is focused on putting our garden to bed for the winter. Now, I don't want you to be confused. We still have a whole bunch more harvests that we haven't shown you yet that we've already done. And those videos are going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks. But we're in late October now, and there's not a whole lot more growing that's going to be happening out here. So I need to get this entire area prepped for what I want over the winter. But I do want to mention that, you know, we've had a couple of days now where the temperatures at night have dropped to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been cold. But I'm out here in short sleeves because it's about 55 today, and this weekend it's going to be in the 70s. So it doesn't really feel like the time of year that it is right now, but it's about to. So let me take you with me as I get a little bit of work done to prep these areas for the winter. Now, one thing I have a whole bunch of around the property right now is all this sweet potato vine, because I did a whole bunch of sweet potato harvests.
And massive piles of these vines are the logical result. Now, I don't want all of this to go to waste. I want to compost it.
But truthfully, composting it in this form is going to take a little while longer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a lawnmower to it.
But here's what this stuff looks like once I've gone ahead and mowed it up. And you can see that is a lot easier. It's going to be a lot easier for it to decompose than if I just left it in its much bigger, longer form here. So now I'm going to finish this up, but I'm going to show you where I'm going to put all this.
Now, Compost Row has treated us really nicely this year. Once again, we've grown vegetables in the top, but now it's starting to decompose, and you're going to see we have about 6 or 7 inches worth of depth now that's been created over the course of this season.
And here's what I'm talking about. This was filled up a good 5 or 6 inches taller. So now it's broken down, it's sunk down. So we're gonna add all of this material right on top in each of our compost bins.
Now, while I was dumping all that into here, I went ahead and I pulled up these old eggplants. These are now dead. You can see what they look like. Boy, these are sturdy. I'm gonna go ahead and chop these up as well while I've got the mower out. And we'll just add that as an additional part of what we're adding on top of all these bins.
Well, it feels really good to get all of those sweet potato vines out of the way, nice and cut up here.
And so now I can move on to what's next, which is dealing with my fall-bearing raspberries.
Well, you can see about a month ago I came in here and I already took out all of our flora canes. Our second-year canes are gone, except for this one right here. And all we have left are our prima-canes. And we didn't pull back our prima-canes at all because we got this second or late harvest here that you get on those first-year canes. Late September into October. It's a really nice extended harvest.
But now that I've picked most of those late harvest, those prima-cane raspberries off here, I'm gonna go ahead and cut that part of the cane off.
Now this year I actually completed this step at the beginning of this growing season, right there in the spring, but you don't have to wait for the spring at all. You just cut right below wherever those berries were. So you can see where the berries at the ends of the cane stopped. And cutting off that apical end is now going to allow for development all along the rest of this cane. We'll actually start to see some growth out from here, maybe even before all the cold temperatures hit, if we're lucky, but in all likelihood not. But the length of this cane is where we're gonna get most of our main crop next season.
And I've actually still got a couple more that I need to enjoy today. Got some seeds from, well, some other plant blowing all around. That's what that white stuff is. These berries though, end of October, really sweet, nice berries. I'll tell you what, raspberries, right up there with my favorite plants to grow. Especially this variety. These fall bearing are so productive. Absolutely love them. Not hard to take care of either. Simple as this. We're gonna get nice production next season, I'm confident. I've got all the ends cut off. A couple more berries to enjoy, but that's it. I don't have to do anything else with these all winter long, which I think is pretty cool. Again, I really love, absolutely love these fall-bearing raspberries. I got one other set to take care of, and then I'm gonna move on to our vertical gardens.
I don't think there's any way that there's any actual potatoes. These are just the seed potatoes that were left in here. I don't think there's any way that more potatoes grew. Oh, take a look at that. We just threw these in here and we just threw them right on top. And they're actually growing some potatoes in here. There's not gonna be enough time for them to actually form, but that's pretty cool, huh? Just threw right on top of everything else. Look at those babies. This is in our compost bin. We did a potato harvest out of here. You haven't seen it yet. Don't worry. I just think that's fantastic. This is what happens. Oh, take a look. This is really cool because you can see now what that looks like sprouting off here. You see all those stolons there? Those are the stolons that are going to be producing those potatoes, or would be. If there was enough time. I think that's super cool. You know what I'm going to do? Oh, look at that. I'm going to leave these in here. I'm just going to leave them in here over the winter. And I think we'll get some volunteer potatoes for next season. I think we'll get some actual production out of here. I'm not going to disturb all of them then. I'm just going to get them covered up so that they're not exposed to the elements. That's a micro potato harvest right there. Now the next thing I want to do to put this garden to bed is to pick a lot of my dried out seed pods. These are our pole beans, and I really want to get these pole bean seeds before there's any heavy frost on them that causes damage. Let me show you, oops, dropped a couple. Let me show you what they look like once I've got them opened up. Just got them on my table here. This is really simple. Once they're dried out, they're so easy to open up. And look at all these. One of them went flying. But all these bean seeds are set to go. We can just take these inside now, and we'll be able to plant these again next season. And these were volunteer pole beans. So these came up this year on their own, which means that these new seeds here should be even better in terms of how they grow and perform in our soil. This might be another one of the seeds that we add to our seed share this year. Year number 2 of our seed share. If you'd like to have some of these pole beans, let us know in the comments.
Now this was our first year working with these DIY vertical gardens. In this one, we grew potatoes and sweet potatoes. And in our other DIYs, we also grew sweet potatoes along with some peppers and cucumbers, etc. And that was our first year growing in this style, where we have this concrete mesh, about a 4-foot tall cage here, nice diameter, and it's filled, or at least it was filled, with this decomposing hay. We had a little bit of potting mix that we added to it as well. But for the most part, we're considering this basically a DIY vertical roost style bed. Now this one was wrapped in burlap, and you can see the residue of that burlap here. But the one that we had wrapped in this food safe black plastic actually performed better than the burlap. So I'm going to actually wrap both of the towers that don't have anything wrapped around them right now. I'm going to wrap those both back in black plastic, and then I've really got to fill it up with our decomposing hay. Now I want to try to use hay that has really decomposed as much as possible. The hay that's here in the corner of our garage is over a year old. So I'm going to use that hay along with the hay that I have here that we've used for the last 2 seasons. And you can see just how much this bale is falling apart. We had our sweet potatoes in here. You can see it's really starting to decompose nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and get this and put this inside of our beds once I get them wrapped in plastic. And I've got some filling up to do, because right now these are less than half full. And yeah, part of that is because you got stuff spilling out, but really this stuff sank a good 12 or 13 inches over the growing season, if not more. So I've got to really pack this up. I'm going to start with the one that had the black plastic around it already. I just need to clear the area from all this residue. That'll go right back in the top. And then we're going to rewrap this. All right, I've cleared everything back from the bottom, from the base here, and you can see the supports. These are just 3-foot posts that are about 1 foot in the ground. I got 4 of these around the entire bed, and then we hold on to the bed in its entirety using this T-post right here. So we keep it from falling over, although it's pretty heavy. I don't think it's going anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and get that black plastic rewrapped around it. You know, we use a lot of these cable ties, these 8-inch cable ties in our garden. They get a 100-pack here for about $4. And they're so good for so many parts of what we have to do out here. It's a simple way
to affix the different things that we need affixed here in the garden. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to reuse some of the holes that I had already put in here whenever I attached this plastic to this specific bed last season, just to hold it in place. And then I'll be able to go along and attach it at the bottom as well, where we'll keep everything nice and tight, nice and pulled together. I think this is going to work just fine. Now it's going to take a little bit of effort to get this nice and snug here, but once I do, we should be in good shape. Now last season, we still had some voles that made their way into this bed. So one of the things I think we're going to have to try to do is to wrap some hardware cloth around the exterior of this and see if that helps keep them out. This is pretty easy to put back on. Once you've done it once, the second time you know what you're doing. Also, there's some holes already in there, but I'm going to finish this up. I got a couple more zip ties, and then I'm going to go tackle the other one. All right, now that I got both of these set up, I got a lot of hay to add. And I'm kind of thinking that even though this is kind of older hay, maybe I still want to run the lawnmower over it to help it not become matted next season. Now obviously, because it's so dry, this stuff's a lot harder to mow, but you can see how nice and loose it is. Smaller pieces now. So I think this will be a lot easier to break down and hopefully doesn't get as matted as it's decomposing over the winter. Well, I am less than half full in here. There's a lot to add. And the thing that I have to keep in mind, just one little lawnmower bag filled it up, or it looks like it filled it up a good bit, but this stuff is gonna sink way down. So I've got to add a whole bunch more. I almost forgot to show you, about every 6 or 8 inches, I'm adding a little scoop of blood meal. That's nitrogen rich. It's a 1200 blood meal, because as this stuff is breaking down, I gotta make sure, it's gonna use up a lot of nitrogen. I gotta make sure we help it along the way. And it's also not gonna hurt to add some of our all-purpose fertilizer. This is our Hollytone, as we go as well. Now I also want to gather up all this great stuff that's on the ground that was in the bed before. You can see it's breaking down really nicely. That's going to go in as well. Now the top of this is going to be open all winter long, so the snow is going to sit on top. That's going to melt and it's going to find its way all the way through. So again, we're adding some fertilizer and our nitrogen. Well, this vertical bed is all filled up with hay. In a couple of weeks, we'll come by and see if we need to add some more. I've also got a couple of seeds right here that I want to collect and save. And that's our garlic chive. You can actually see all the seeds now. These pods have all dried out. See all those black seeds on here? You can get a ton of seeds from these. The bees and the other pollinators absolutely love this plant. And you can get some nice scapes off of here. So I'm gonna go ahead and collect these. Now the easiest way to do this, I just cut the heads off just like so. And then I just find a flat white surface and run my fingers over top of these. You could also just hit them a little bit, but I like to just run my fingers over top, and you see all these seeds popping off. We can collect those and plant them again next season. I pulled off like 5 or 6 flowers off this one plant. Look how many seeds I've gotten. I love the fact that these plants are so ready to prepare themselves for those next generations. Well folks, I still have more prep to do out here to get stuff ready for winter, but if I keep recording, I'm not gonna have time to get it all done. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me and working with me here in the yard and space. Now this is kind of a fun time of year, because even though we're finishing up harvesting and putting all this summer stuff to bed and fall garden stuff to bed, well, we have our indoor gardening that's just now going to start ramping up. And if you haven't checked out any of our indoor gardening content, you are in for a real treat. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.